Hey everyone, and welcome to the Boundaries Masterclass. I am so glad you're here. If you're someone that is struggling with creating healthy boundaries in your life with the people you love, friends, family, coworkers, just being able to say that word that no one likes, that two-letter word that creates so much strife in our lives, creates guilt, anxiety, fear, the word no. And I'm here to show you some ways that we can play with that word and help us to be able to set clear and healthy boundaries, why it's important, and how to start implementing them and putting them into practice in your day-to-day, starting today. So if you are here, it is by no accident. You are here because you were told intuitively that you needed some help, that there was something not right. There was pain inside of you that was causing you to be here to watch this class and to help you put yourself, prioritize yourself, put yourself first, and be able to set boundaries with the people you love and care about. So let's dive in. So, for those of you that don't know me, I am Elizabeth Kelly, founder of For the Love of Self Coaching and the Self Love Lounge podcast and membership. And just like you, I'm a girl that's been through it all, right? Many years of sacrificing my own needs to maintain peace and please others, neglecting myself in the process. I was in a marriage that didn't bring me happiness and started coping in unhealthy ways, and the pain became unbearable. The decision to walk away was one of the hardest things I've ever done, and it left me feeling lost, scared, angry, and overwhelmed by a whirlwind of emotions. But here's the twist. I sought help, a way to navigate the pain and emerge stronger, standing in my truth and owning my story. That's how I'm here today, ready to support you. I've worked through the process that forced me to confront my own struggles, taught me invaluable self-love and acceptance, and equipped me with the tools to manage all of my relationships more effectively. Now I'm dedicated to giving back and sharing what I've learned. My mission is to help women just like yourself so you can break free from what's holding you back and begin your journey towards self-love and empowerment. So I always love to start with who I am because it helps you be able to connect with me, to trust me that I've been where you are. I understand the struggles and the challenges that you face. And so because of that, I've crafted tools and learned different ways to manage that and cope and work through those processes myself, and have learned that they work, and have also taught many others these processes and strategies, and they've also been through successful transformations and changes in their life to be able to now set healthy boundaries with the people they love. So just a little bit more about my work. So as I mentioned, I am the founder and coach of For the Love of Self Coaching, which is predominantly a one-on-one coaching program. Of recent, I've also created and host the Self Love Lounge podcast, as well as I have just of most recent created the Self Love Lounge membership, which is a place, a safe space where you can come in, network with like-minded women that are confronting some of the same challenges you are. You can take advantage of weekly group coaching sessions. You have live trainings and videos in there, all different resources, and a whole group of women that you can connect and be supported by. I also I have been busy. I also recently co-authored a book, Rattled Awake, where I told a little bit of my story and tips and tricks in there on how to overcome some of the challenges of divorce, sobriety, and transformation. I'm also a contributing author for Her Nation magazine, where I also share empowering articles related to my work. So there are a lot of different ways that you can collaborate and work with me, and would love to hear from you and learn more from your story and how you're doing. So please don't ever hesitate to reach out. All right, so today we have a full agenda. We're going to go through what does it mean to set or have healthy boundaries? What happens when we don't have healthy boundaries? Learning to set boundaries, managing the discomfort of setting boundaries, knowing your boundaries. And there's 6 different types of boundaries, believe it or not. How to speak your boundaries so people can hear you, and that's 3 steps. Getting better at communicating your boundaries, how childhood impacts your adult boundaries, and holding your boundaries is a form of self-care. So let's dive in. So what does it mean to have healthy boundaries? Boundaries are a way of communicating our needs to others via words and actions. They are perimeters that we establish with ourselves and others. Therefore, boundaries aren't just about telling other people what to do, but are also holding ourselves accountable for creating the life we want. So when we don't have healthy boundaries, right, we're limiting our ability to live life on our terms, right? We're kind of succumbing to everything that's given to us versus us being intentional and really understanding what we want and need and going after it. So again, it's important that we are able to really identify by slowing down, what is it that I want? What do I want my relationships to look like? How do I want to show up? What am I okay with? What am I not okay with? Right? Because otherwise, we're kind of becoming reactive and just taking whatever is thrown our way. And the saying, when you don't own or manage your life, others will do it for you, is so true. And that's what happened to me years ago. I was in a place where I was just reactive to everything. I just became really comfortable and in this routine and was doing the same things over and over. And, woke up one day and was like, what am I even doing? Like, why am I even doing this? Do I even want to be doing this? And as soon as I was able to like stop and start asking myself those questions, that's when things started to change. Because then I was like, okay, so now I know I'm just doing things on autopilot, but it's not because I necessarily want to be doing it. It's just I'm doing it because it's what I've always done. But it's okay at any point to say, hey, this doesn't feel good, or hey, this isn't working anymore. What can we do instead? What can I change so that it does feel good, right? So this kind of gives you a visual as far as what it looks like for, and I'm going to move my face around here, people who have unhealthy boundaries versus a result of what those unhealthy boundaries lead to, right? So, for example, if you're someone with unhealthy boundaries, you're probably experiencing burnout, resentment, frustration, anger, superhero syndrome, anxiety, and depression, right? There's a lot of burnout and overwhelm that comes from just not being able to kind of put that stake in the ground and say, no, this doesn't feel good. Or, you know what? I don't really want to go out tonight. I want to stay in. Once we can understand what we want, then we have to know how to communicate that, which we'll get to. So when we aren't setting healthy boundaries, the result of that is you're doing things you don't like to do, right? You're complaining about how others are treating you, that you don't have enough time for yourself. You're giving people all these chances to hurt you. You're feeling resentful because you're overwhelmed, because you're doing things you don't want to be doing. You're doing things for the wrong reasons. And you're allowing others to say things to you without speaking up for yourself, right? So if any of this rings true and resonates with you, it's a really clear sign that you're not setting boundaries for yourself and others, and you need to start, because the only way to change something is to change it, right? So don't worry, we're going to get to that. I'm going to tell you how. All right, time to move the face again. All right, so learning to set boundaries. Here's the best ways, right? First and foremost, everything takes practice. You're not going to start doing anything and be great from the start, right? You have to start small and allow yourself time to practice. And by doing that, you'll get better and better at the skills, right? So first, keep it short. Keep it as short as you can, and make it in a way that's comfortable for you. Okay. Because if it doesn't feel good, chances are you're probably not going to be able to say it. Um, be clear, right? Do your best to be as straightforward as possible. You can be firm and loving, right? You can be kind and firm. But mind your tone, right? Because a lot of times when we start doing this, we come off a little gruff because we're uncomfortable. So we might become a little to the other extreme. So just take a deep breath, right? Focus on what it is you want to articulate and say to the person, and just find a way that resonates with you that feels comfortable and safe. And then say that directly to the person in a firm and loving way, right? So if you're someone that like, hey, I don't want to go tonight, but I'm going because I feel bad if I don't go, they're gonna have to go by themselves. And I don't know, like I would feel so bad. Okay. So instead of saying, no, I'm not gonna go, you could say, hey, I'm really sorry. I'm not feeling up to it. Can we take a rain check and do it another time? There's ways to say no without saying no directly. However, at first, if you feel like you're going to kind of get some persuasion or manipulated into changing your mind, at that point, you are going to have to just be very clear and say, I'm sorry, I can't tonight, right? Like this is going to be a no tonight. However, I would love to get together with you another time when I'm up to it. Okay, so identify your expectations or decline the offer. Don't just mention what you don't like, ask for what you need or want. And again, it's really important that you do, maybe a little practice beforehand, really get clear on why, what is it that you want? Why don't you want to go? Why do you want to stay home? Really just get clear with yourself, because the more you do that, the more comfortable you're going to be setting that boundary. Remember, it starts with us first. Okay. So, managing the discomfort of setting boundaries, I understand this is challenging because there's a lot of guilt associated with setting boundaries. But again, that could be easily a mindset shift, right? So, don't let trying to be nice stop you from doing the hard work of setting limits with others. One of the most significant issues people have with boundaries is the discomfort associated with the process before, while, and after executing them. So if we're, sitting in all this guilt, then of course it's going to be hard for us to set that boundary. But if we can talk to ourselves and just try to, shift and reframe how we're choosing to think about setting a boundary, it can help us feel less guilty about it. So instead of saying to ourselves, oh man, I feel bad, she's going to have to go alone, saying, you know what? If I can set this boundary with her, then it's going to help her to feel more comfortable to do it with me when she needs to, right? So we're helping others to feel safe to set boundaries with us as well. Knowing your boundaries. Okay, so like I said before, there's 6 types of boundaries. There's physical boundaries, which is your personal space, so physical touch, and it's important that you're able to say what you're okay with and what you're not okay with as far as physical touch. I have people in my life, they're not huggers, and I'm a big hugger, but I have to know that that's not comfortable for them and respect that boundary. And instead, maybe I shake a hand or maybe I do an air 5, but it's finding ways to connect that's respectful to everybody's different set of boundaries and what feels safe and comfortable for them. Sexual. So sexual is touching, making sexual comments, or engaging in sexual acts without express consent violate sexual boundaries, right? So it's important that we're able to communicate what's okay and what's not okay, and be able to share that and stick to it, right? Be very consistent. If you don't want someone saying any kind of sexual comments to you, then it's important that you stop it right away and then you stay consistent with that. Like, I've asked you to stop, please, right? And then, of course, if that's not being respected, then you need to take it to the next step. The third boundary is intellectual boundary, right? So that is any thoughts and ideas. So you have the freedom to have your own opinions about anything you want. And when you express your opinion, your words should not be dismissed, belittled, or ridiculed. So you have the right to share your thoughts and ideas with other people. They don't have to like it or agree with it, but it doesn't mean that you can't feel the freedom to express that. If they don't like it, that's on them, and they have to own that and manage it for themselves. But you still have the right to share your thoughts and ideas. The fourth boundary is emotional, right? So when someone belittles your emotions or invalidates your feelings, they're violating your emotional boundaries because you have every right to feel what you're feeling. And if you're feeling something, it's for a reason. It's telling you something, it's teaching you something. So don't ignore that, honor that feeling. And if you don't feel safe sharing it, there's probably a reason for that too. So find somebody that you do feel safe sharing with and share it with them. The fifth boundary is material. Your stuff is your stuff, right? And if you don't want someone touching it or borrowing it or taking it, then it's up to you to say that. And if they still don't respect that, then again, you have to kind of up level to a more rigid boundary. However, hopefully, if you say, hey, that's really important to me, I'd rather you didn't take that with you, hopefully they'll respect that and say, oh, I'm sorry. Absolutely. So, but you have the right to say what's okay and what's not okay with your stuff. And then the sixth one is time. So how you manage your time, how you allow others to use your time, and how you deal with favor requests and and how you structure your free time. And this is a big one for me. And anyone that knows me knows that I am big on this because your time is your biggest commodity. It's bigger than money because with time, we don't know when it runs out. We have no expiration date. We have no idea when our expiration date is, right? So we have to be really conscientious and intentional with how we use our time because it's limited. And we have the right to decide how we want to manage our time, how we want to use it, and who we want to give it to. So you have the right to kind of take a look at that and be able to decide what's right for you. And another thing I teach is, are you spending your time aligned with the things you value and the things that light you up and are important to you? Because if not, why? Right? So evaluating our time and really taking a look at that is important. The other piece of that is if we're giving our time to someone that kind of drains us and takes our energy, why are we doing that? Is it because we feel compelled to? We feel bad or guilty like we need to? Again, I would evaluate that because we want to make sure that the people we have in our circle and in our tribe are people that are adding value to our life, that are making it better, that are contributing. It should be 50-50, right? So if you're giving more than you're getting, it's probably time to evaluate that relationship. Okay, so all of these different boundaries are important for their own reason. And each of these, I hope, has shown you that you have the ability to decide what's right for you, whether it's your body, it's your words, it's your feelings, thoughts, your stuff. All of those are things that you get to decide how you set boundaries around. So how to speak your boundaries so people can hear you, okay? So first, be clear and focus on the solution, not the problem. The boundary is the solution, okay? And I always say it's important that we're clear, concise, and consistent, the 3 C's with our boundaries. So make sure, again, you know what the boundary is. Mom, I can't come to dinner Monday through Friday, but I can absolutely come Saturday or Sunday. Okay. And then stick to that. If she tries to schedule dinner Thursday, say, I'm sorry, Mom, I can only do dinner Saturday and Sunday. I can't do Thursday. Please, 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 please. I'm sorry, Mom, I can't. Saturday or Sunday. Okay. Right. So we have to be able to know what we're okay with, what we're not okay with, and then be very clear and concise about that. So state what you need and want, or say no, right? Speak your truth in the following ways. I want, I need, I expect next time, okay? Because then there's no gray. It's this or it's this. And people can understand that. They know where you stand. And you have to learn to manage your discomfort. It's normal to feel guilt, fear, sadness, remorse, awkwardness, indifference, or relief when setting boundaries. Those are all so normal, such normal feelings. No one likes to have to disappoint someone or say no or not right now. But the reality is, there's times when we need to, because it's how we fill our own cup and take care of ourselves so we can always show up as our best self. So getting better at communicating your boundaries. And I love this, right? There's no rule saying we have to stay the same just because people expect us to never change, right? We are, if we are living our lives in congruency of how we are evolving, we're continuously growing. We're continuously changing and rediscovering ourselves. We don't have to stay the same person we've always been and do the same things we've always done just because that's what we've always done. We are allowed to change. We're allowed to change our mind, change the things we do, change the people we hang out with. That's okay, right? So I want to correct some boundary mishaps. So implementing too many things at once. If you express too many of your needs at the same time, the other person will be unlikely to be receptive, right? So maybe focus on one area, start with one area that's really important to you and lead with that. And again, get that in a place where it's good and then move to the next thing. Because as humans, if you put too many things on your plate at once, or anybody's plate for that matter, it gets overwhelming and then we're not doing anything well. So just start small and focus on one thing at a time. Stating the problem without sharing the solution. So instead of stating the boundary, perhaps you shared the issue. And when we share the issue, we're welcoming feedback and other people's opinions, versus when we set a boundary, we're clearly stating what we want and need. Okay, so it's important to know the difference. The third one is being aggressive. Aggressiveness makes a bigger problem than the problem you're trying to solve, right? So when we come across really sharky or aggressive, then we're creating people to kind of like take a step back and get defensive, which can lead into confrontation and arguments, where if we can just say something loving and firmly, then people are more apt to accept that and be receptive to that. Being inconsistent, right? The key to getting people to respect your boundaries is consistency. So if you're saying one thing but doing another, it's not going to work, right? So if you're saying, Mom, I can only do dinner on Saturdays and Sundays, and then she invites you on Thursday and you go, well, what's to make her think that you can't do it on Thursday if you're there on a Thursday, right? So then the messages are crossed. So if you say only Saturday and Sunday, then you have to stick to that and only go to dinner on Saturday and Sunday. Okay. So it's important that you stay consistent in the things that the boundaries you set with people and with yourself. Okay. So getting better at communicating your boundaries. So if you allow your boundaries to be violated because you're afraid or uncomfortable, you will continue suffering. That's inevitable. Okay. So if you continuously do things just because sacrificing yourself and doing things for the greater good, it's going to continue to create internal pain for you because you're not doing things in alignment with what you want and need. So start slowly, right? Remember, we talked about addressing one thing at a time. Start with the issues that trouble you the most. So prioritize what's the biggest boundary, like the biggest, challenge that you need to set a boundary with. And prioritize boundaries. And once you've been successful with one, then move to the next. And remember to start with statements I want, I need, I expect, or I will say no to, because those are creating like firm, loving boundaries that there's no negotiation, there's no wiggle room. You're just clearly stating, I want this, I need this, right? And then this is the 3 C's I was talking about. So it's really important that we're getting better at communicating your boundaries. And these are the 3 C's: clear, concise, consistent. Okay. So was my boundary clear? Did I state what I needed, say no, or set a limit? Was it concise? Did I over explain myself or use complicated language? and consistent. Did I follow through on my boundary? So these are really important, okay? So you have to make sure that you're clear with what you need and want, that you didn't over-explain, right? You kept it short and to the point, and that you followed through with your actions and you stayed consistent in following through. If you can do the 3 C's when you're setting a boundary, chances are you're going to increase the likelihood that that boundary is going to stick and work, and it's going to help you and the relationship. So how does childhood impact our boundaries? Well, typically, boundaries are not something that is taught. And I'm not saying not any parent teaches boundaries, because there are parents that teach boundaries, but a lot of times they're not. And childhood and adult trauma impact the way we perceive and engage in the world around us, right? So adults live with scars of childhood trauma. In many cases, it affects how we engage in relationships, right? It may also affect our attachment with other people and things in our life. So it's important that we say, I will no longer, right? My parents never taught me. I will no longer accept the excuse, my parents never taught me, as a reason to not do better. So let's brainstorm a few ways we can ask for support. When I cry, please rub my back and tell me everything will be okay. So this is being able to communicate in a way that's effective in asking for what you want and need, and teaching people what you want and need, right? So if every time you cry, you want your back rubbed, and someone just to be like, it's going to be okay, everything is okay, right? And you keep keep communicating that consistently, then every time you cry, that person's going to know, okay, Elizabeth wants her back rubbed and to be told everything's going to be okay. And then that will happen. And that's where being able to communicate here, if this happens, this is what I want. Because then your partner, your coworker, your family, your friends, whoever in your life that you're having that relationship with will know how to show up. They'll know what you want and need. So it's not only important to know what it is that you want and need, but it's also really important that you can communicate that. Holding boundaries is a form of self-love and self-care. It truly is. And self-care is a restorative mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical practice that rejuvenates, relaxes, and enhances your life. It helps calm your nervous system, helps you get grounded, and really helps you understand, okay, what's going on in here, right? Because when we are getting grounded in our bodies and attached to ourselves and the things we're feeling, the things we need, and we're listening to ourselves, then we're more able to show up intentionally. So I want you to ask yourself, what boundaries do you need to set for yourself and others to have more time for self-care? Because the biggest thing I hear over and over again is I don't have enough time, right? I don't have any time for myself. I don't have enough time to go and do that thing I've always wanted to do. So what is it you need to do, right? Who do you need to ask for help with childcare? Or do you need to take a PTO day? Or what is it you need to do? Where do you need to ask for help so that you can be able to create that space and time for yourself? Okay, so we all have the ability to find the time. We just have to actually put it into practice. So I want you today, right, to look at your schedule, figure out a time when you can take, even if it's 30 minutes, 20, 30 minutes. When can I find that time for myself to put in, on my calendar, schedule it, and then set that boundary with, okay, for these 30 minutes, I'm going to do X. Maybe it's a walk, maybe it's a bath, maybe it's going and getting a pedicure, whatever it may be. But putting that on your calendar and scheduling time for you. You will be so much better for it, I promise. So setting boundaries is a form of self-discipline, and self-discipline is a form of self-love, right? So boundaries involve honoring the limits you've set with others and yourself. It's saying, hey, I, I'm wiped. I can't do any more today. I'm going to stop because if I try to do anything else, I'm not going to do it great. So I think it's better if I just stop and take a break and take some time for me. Maybe I'm going to go for a little walk and get some fresh air. Maybe I'm going to make my favorite cup of coffee. Maybe I'm just going to sit and close my eyes and take a few deep breaths, right? But when we can make those little mini breaks for ourselves throughout the day or take a chunk of time, it allows us to kind of give back to ourselves, to put that into practice and to be able to show ourselves love. And really, boundaries is just shifting your habits, right? It's remember, healthy boundaries are about you, not the other person. So it's about, creating those habits of setting aside time for yourself. Again, scheduling it on your calendar. I know every morning I don't schedule anything before 10 a.m. because I know I want to fill up my own cup first and give to myself first thing in the morning, because then the rest of the day I can show up the way I want. Okay, so it's finding that time in the day when you know you can take 5-10 minutes or an hour and just put that towards yourself and filling your cup. So a healthy boundary sounds like, I'm going to take a break from dating. Okay, I'm going to take a break from dating. I'm going to take a break from work. I'm going to take some me time. Okay, it's okay to say that because you're honoring how you're feeling and what you need. Whereas control sounds like you need to stop dating because you're terrible at picking people. I don't believe you're terrible at picking people. Okay. So again, that's a limiting belief. It's a negative thought that we can reframe and shift to just, I don't feel like dating right now. I'm going to take a break. Okay. Boundaries are not a way of controlling people. They're just a way of telling people what's okay and what's not okay. And I loved this quote. So, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we're disappointing others. Okay. So, if you are setting a boundary for yourself, try to change the way you're thinking about it and remind yourself that it's okay, right? It's okay to say, I can't today. Not today. Let's try again next week. Okay. It's okay to say what feels okay. And it's okay to change your mind. And it's okay to reevaluate things as you need to. Okay. Disappointing other people, if they're disappointed, then that's on them to manage. But again, they can come back to you and feel comfortable knowing that they can set a boundary with you because you've done it with them. Okay. So teach people how you want to be how you want to be loved, right? By doing it for yourself first, and then teaching them how to do it with you by communicating and setting those boundaries for yourself. And lastly, I hope this has been super helpful for you. I hope you've got some takeaways, and I hope that you start looking at your calendar and putting in some me time for yourself. I think it's really important. I can't wait to hear from you. Please, send me a message. I'm on social media. Send me an email. Let me know the boundary you're setting, how it's going. I'd love to stay in touch. And if you're someone that's really struggling with this and could use more help, I am more than happy to schedule a free call with you where we can just talk through what's going on and maybe give you some tips and pointers. And, there's also different ways you can work with me moving forward. So I'd love to hear from you. So please go in, send me a message, and let me know how you're doing. All right, all. Thank you so much for participating in this masterclass. I'm so excited that you took some time for you to really understand how you can set boundaries and start improving the relationship with yourself and others. Bye for now.